Hi everybody, I'm Ray. We're back after another one. We have our small block here that we have the heads and rocker arms and stuff on. Today we're going to be putting the intake on. We already have this primed up, and if you guys are working on a budget or whatever, if you're not working on a budget, you can make your own priming tool like I did here. All it is an old points distributor, and I took and knocked the gear off of it, took a little tube, drilled a hole through it, put the pin back in it, took the top apart and just welded a little bolt on here and put it back together, and there we go. It spins. Realistically, what you need is this part right here, because where this sits in the oil galley, it needs this restrictor portion in there so it will oil the passenger side of the engine. Otherwise the oil just shoots past and it don't want to come up your push rods and stuff. So there you go, and make sure you got your oil filter on. And all I did is I just put a little spacer in here with a gauge on it, so I knew how much oil pressure I was pushing, and there you go. I like doing this before I put my intake on. It's a little bit easier. You don't have the stuff in the way. You can see the oil coming through where the lifters are and whatnot. And now that we got that done, we're going to go ahead and put our intake together. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I was going a little bit faster than what Teresa thought I was going to. So this is the gauge I was talking about right here, and as you can see, we have oil all through the valley because it comes up around the lifters and so on and so forth, and up the push rods and then down and then drains back in. So sorry about that, going a little faster than she thought I was going to. But now over here is the intake we're going to use. Now this is a brand new intake out of the box, so I went ahead and I clear coated it before we started, just trying to keep some of the dirt buildup and stuff off of it for future so it can be cleaned up a little better. Now what I did here is I just put some painter's tape on this, and what that does is it stops something from falling down inside. I'm going to assemble the intake right here before we even put it on. Reason being is if we drop something in these holes, all we got to do is pick it up and turn it, and it can come back out. If you go ahead and put this on the motor and you drop something in there, you're going to have to pull the intake back off and fish it out of the heads or the intake. So basically that's what I'm going to do. So first of all, I'm going to take the thermostat, set that in there, take our housing, and this has got an O-ring on it already, so we can go ahead and put that together there. Oh, actually before I do that, I want to put just a little bit of oil on that O-ring. There we go. We don't want to put that on dry, so we'll just put just a tiny little, there we go. Tiny little bit on there, and we'll set that like that, and put our other bolt here. And I know, guys, chrome don't get you home, but it does look nice until it starts getting a lot of the engine grime and whatnot on it. So we're going to go ahead and throw the chrome on it, and hopefully it'll look pretty decent a year or so down the line. And if not, we can always paint it or put a different one on. We put aluminum one on or something like that. It's not that big a deal. Just kind of snug that down. And remember, this is just aluminum, so we're not going to get too crazy with tightening it down real tight, because we don't want to crack our housing or whatever. All we gotta do is snug it up good so it don't leak. There we go. We'll call that good for now. I got oil on my hands. Wipe that off real quick. And our plugs that we're gonna put in here, I'm just gonna put in hand tight. Just again, enough just to close up the holes. And I'm not gonna put any sealer on them at this point in time because I don't know what plugs we're gonna need and what ones are gonna put a temperature sensor in. We'll probably use temperature sensor in this one, but we could use this one, we could use this one. It's all in that same area. So we'll just put that in there. We'll take this one and put in here. And then we also have this here that we can put in for a heater return back to the heater core too. So right now we're just going to put the plugs in, more or less to seal our motor up so we don't have any issues of something falling into it. This one here is a vacuum. This one here probably will end up coming out and just staying, but again, I'm just going to put that in there like that. And then we got this stud here. As you can see, it's got a little Allen key hole in it. This goes back here where the hold down is for the distributor. And I'm just going to screw that in like this. And then the rest of the hold down clamp and stuff I'll put in after we have the distributor sitting there. Okay, now these studs here have a washer and a nut on them. These are for your carburetor. So I'm going to put these in here. See, that's what I was telling you about. That would have very easily just gone right down into that hole. Okay, there's one. And I'm going to go ahead and leave the nuts and washers on this, because if I set them somewhere, I'll forget where I set them, and when I go to put the carburetor on, I'll be looking all over the shop and won't know where they're at. So I'll just go ahead and leave them on there. But we'll leave this tape on as well until we get the nuts and washers off. Then we'll go ahead and pull the tape off. And then we'll set our gasket on there and our carburetor on it, and then we'll put our nuts and washers on. Again, that way we don't take the chance of dropping something into our intake. Okay, snug them down. Just gotta run them down a little bit so they don't come off. Okay, so there you have it. Our intake is ready to sit on the motor. So what I'm going to do now is set our gaskets on. Now, as you can see, this particular set of gaskets says this side up. So that doesn't mean that this side of the gasket goes up like this. That means this side versus this side. So we want the writing where this goes up, because this is the top side of the gasket right here. This is the side that goes down towards the lifter valley. So what we're going to do is come over here, and I'm going to make sure that everything lines up by sitting it on our head like this. And there it is, this side up right here, and everything does. So I'm just going to set that there. This is the other gasket for this side, and this also says this side up right here. So I'm going to set that here, centered on our holes. Everything looks good. Now you can see where I was talking about by gasket matching our heads. See how this is all chamfered back, and this one's all chamfered back, and we don't have any head area or any opening area in the head that's being blocked. So that's what I was talking about. All these are all matched. So what I'm going to do now is get a little bit of the black RTV. And I'm going to go right here in our corner. Make sure it's dry. I'm going to put a little goober like that right there in the corner of that one. Same thing over here in this corner. And I'm going to set that little tab right down in it. I'm going to move it around just a little bit. And I'm going to do it just like that. Okay, now what that does is that helps seal the corners and it helps keep our gasket in place. It's starting to settle just a little bit right there. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Put a little goober right here. And another one right here. Just a little bit more right there. And then I'm going to set this right in it like that. Okay. Now, for a lot of you fellas that are old school, if you wanted to, you could put the rubber gaskets on. This particular block is a newer block. It don't have the holes in it. I know they have some of the gaskets that have the little shoulders on them that fit on the inside and the outside where you can put on it. But what I do is I just run the silicone. You can use the black RTV if you want to. I prefer what they call the great stuff, and I'll show you the can that it comes in here in a second. This is the right stuff, I guess it is. They have another one called great stuff. The reason I like this is purely because of the spout. It's a lot easier to control and maneuver. You can use whatever you want. Just make sure that when you put this on there, you use a decent bead so it seals. I'm going to come right up on the gasket, and I'm just going to take my time and put a bead on it just like this. So when I set my intake on it, we get a nice seal on the front and the back. There. I'll do the same thing in the back. Makes it a little bit difficult with this gauge in the way, but with that in there, it also stops the sealant from plugging your hole up too. Because this is just a temporary gauge, it will come off. And we'll put a fitting in there for a gauge that'll be inside the cab. Alright, now what I do is I just kind of goober up a little ball on top of this, and I put the top back on it like that. That way when you go to use it again, you just pop that out of there, and real slowly and easy it'll have that where you pull that out, and then you'll be able to use it again. Otherwise it'll dry up in there. So I'll set this out of the way. And look everything over here. Looks like our gasket's in pretty good shape. So I can on the slide down just a freckle there and there. Okay. Now we're ready to put our intake on. And what I'm going to do is check the bottom real good. Make sure we don't have any debris stuck to it. I'm going to set it hopefully right on top of that without sliding our gaskets. Just like that. Okay. Looks like the front's got to go just a touch. And I did move this gasket just a little bit right here. I should be able to move it back just a hair. There we go. That one looks good. This one looks good. And that one looks good. Okay. So now I'm going to take my bolts. I'm just going to start one here in the middle. I'm going to start another one here in the middle. Now these bolts are supposed to be torqued down to about 35 pounds. Okay, so that's not very much with a torque wrench, and a lot of times you can't get a torque wrench in there. And you'll have a lot of old school guys tell you, well, you just take a wrench and give her about the same pull on each one. And that definitely does work. Feller's been doing that for years and years. If you can get your torque wrench on them, by all means use a torque wrench. But 35 pounds is not very much. So we're going to probably do it the old school way and use a wrench. There is a torque sequence on these, which means you should start in the center and work your way to the outsides, which is what we will be doing. Just a little bit tight. There we go. My gasket must have slipped just a little bit. Okay. I misplaced one bolt. I'll have to find the other bolt. I misplaced a bolt here. Must have dropped one on the floor or misplaced one. That's okay, I'll find it. What we'll do right now is now this particular set of bolts came with the wrench to put it on with, or put them on with. So right now we're just kind of snugging everything up here. And again, 35 pounds ain't a whole lot of pressure, guys, so we don't need to get a lot of torque on them. Okay, something else with putting the tape on it like this is if you're not going to install it right away and it's going to sit, it'll keep dust, bugs, mice, hopefully mice, out of your intake area too. Also, what we'll probably be doing is taping off the exhaust manifolds, because I'm not going to put the headers on right away either. So, but that's pretty much it. We'll kind of go around this, give it a little torque job. Okay, there you have it. Now that bolt there I have here on the bench somewhere. I got so much stuff on the bench, it's probably underneath a piece of the shop rag or towel or something here, so I'll find it and we'll get it on there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put my valve cover gaskets on. Now we got the stock studs that came on the set of heads that we installed back into it, which makes it real easy to put our gaskets on and hold them in place. Go ahead and do these ones over here. These are the older style, so they're cork. So, and what that means is don't over tighten them, because the torque of the putting the cork on, what it does, it mashes them down, it just cuts the centers of them out. So I'm going to wander here in front of the camera for a second, get my valve cover, and I'm just going to set my valve covers on for now. I got the other one right here. Okay, there we go. There's our valve cover set in place. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put our distributor in. Now I've already marked where number 1 should be right here. So what I want to do is see where my thing is down there. See how close we are. It looks like we're a tooth off, so I got it back the, well, actually, it's not sitting down in the oil pump shaft, so I'm going to have to get a long screwdriver. See if I can turn that back just a little bit. Let's try that. Let's see if that will drop it in there for us. Oh, I think I went too far. Oh, there it goes. Okay, yep, we got it. And this should go approximately right there. Now what I did is I marked where I want number 1 right here, where this hits right there, and I put just a little deal on there. I did that with the cap on it, so I knew I had one of the spark plug wire spots right there. So, and I marked it, and I marked that. So that's pretty close right there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the hold down for the distributor. Up in here like this. That little clamp there. And then there's a washer that goes on top of that. And my fat fingers aren't cooperating. And then we got a nut that goes on top of that. Okay. Now we got to get this to slide up on top of that. There we go. And then that gets tightened down on that. So I'll go get a 9/16 real quick while Teresa's showing you what it looks like. I think that's a 9/16 is what I need. I'm going to just real slightly, not going to get carried away, but I'm just going to kind of snug that down just a little bit. And then I'm going to wipe off some of my gasket material that's oozing out. There we go. And I'll get the rest of that after it sets up. It's a little easier to get some of that off there right now. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is take my distributor cap. And like I said, I marked number 1, which is right here. So I know that goes over here. There we go. It sits down just like that. And I'll take a screwdriver and turn these little clips. There it goes. Okay, like that. And then this here comes up right here and plugs into this, like that. I'm not going to snap it in because I'll end up taking that back off anyway, but that's what that goes. That snaps into there. Okay. Now that pretty much buttons up our motor, and the only other thing we have to do is assemble the front and the carburetor. The carburetor I have is an older used carburetor, so we will be having to put a rebuild kit in it before we put it on. I don't know if I'm going to video that or not, guys. Carburetors are carburetors. I mean, a lot of guys like them, a lot of guys hate them. So it is what it is. We're going to put a carburetor on this particular unit, and it will be an Edelbrock. I know everybody likes their favorite carburetors. A lot of guys like Hollies, they hate Edelbrocks. There's a lot of guys that like Edelbrocks, hate carburetor Hollies. It is what you like, and this one here works good. We've had it on a motor years ago. It always worked real well, so we're just going to go ahead and rebuild it and put it on this one. So there you have it. All I have to do is find that bolt. I dropped it probably here somewhere. We'll put it in there, and there's our motor buttoned up, and getting it closer to go into our rat rod. So Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys. If you're new to it, welcome. If you've been following along, we really appreciate it. And hit that bell to get notifications when we have a new one come out. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.